Hi, wonderful people. Great to have you with me as we try and wrap our heads around the madness swirling through the corridors of so-called power. But before I launch into this week's monologue, let me tell you how to support this channel, and I'd love it if you would. Go to patreon.com, find me by name and sign up. If you can afford it. If you can afford it. I'm only asking for support from those that can. Because it involves a small fee, price of a cup of coffee once a month. But as a member, you get early access to all my new content, and you get exclusive access to a question and answer session every week. It's like a chat, really. You can ask me anything, nothing's off the table. Scroll down, you'll find the details of how to go about all of this. Anyway, let's get started. We're coming up on the anniversary of the moment when King John of England put his seal on the Great Charter, the Magna Carta, on the 15th day of June in the year 1215. With every passing year, it becomes more important to remember that date and that document, and don't let anyone hoodwink you into thinking otherwise. Because with every passing year, we are tricked further away from the truth of the constitution of this country. With every year that passes, the powers that ought not to be, the state, the government, parliament, whatever name you want to apply to a parcel of rogues at best and a bunch of crooks at worst, applies yet more layers of obfuscation and misdirection to hoodwink the people, to deny the people the truth of the law. Their law, the law of the people. What has been done to generations of British people down through the centuries by functionaries, politicians, civil servants, and the rest of the self-seeking, self-serving would-be tyrants is nothing less than the ultimate act of what we have all learned more recently to describe as gaslighting. The truth, the constitution, and don't let anyone tell you that we don't have a written constitution in this country, because we do, and it's Magna Carta 1215. The law of the land has been swept under the carpet or papered over with layer upon layer of lies and misdirection until the point where we are now, when the vast majority of people accept that the corrupted Frankenstein's monster of a system we are told is our society is all we deserve and all we can have. The approach of the anniversary of Magna Carta 1215, and there is no other. I'm not repeating the date for no reason. There is no other but the Magna Carta sealed that day in that year 1215, accept no altered, bastardised replacement of that original mark. It's the time to understand what that charter is and always will be, regardless of what successive generations of con men and con women in government have sought to proclaim. King John of England had been brought to trial by his peers, being the barons. He was a violent man, hardly unusual by the standards of kings, right enough, but nonetheless, he and his soldiers had been killing his subjects. He'd made families destitute by helping himself to their property and land. Presumably they'd own nothing and be happy. John was a bad lot. At the time, that part of the early 13th century, the foundational law of the land, the common law, had it that England was what is still called a limited monarchy, based on the understanding of the Saxon kings who long predated him. John was acknowledged only as first among his equals, which is to say first among his peers, and his peers were the barons. Those barons were absolutely within their rights, therefore, to hold him to account. Indeed, it was nothing less than their obligation. He was one of them, no more and no less. The document he put his seal on, he was illiterate and couldn't sign his name. The document, remembered as Magna Carta 1215, was not stating anything new, far less anything revolutionary. It was old stuff. Magna Carta 1215 was nothing more and nothing less than the restatement of the accepted law of the land. This law had great antiquity, all the way back to the people of ancient Greece and the philosophers there. It made clear once again that a governing administration is only by, for, and of the people if ultimate sovereign power is accepted as residing always and only with the people themselves. The people must govern themselves, or it's no democracy. Kings, parliaments, whatever, those are administrations only and may only administer. They never, can never legitimately be said to govern. They do not and never govern anything, far less us, the people. Any administration, be it an emperor, a king, a queen, a parliament, a politburo, whatever, will of course jump at the chance to write legislation that makes it impossible for the people or anyone else to rid themselves of that administration. Any administration so doing is a dictatorship, pure and simple. Any legislation created by an administration, by an elected parliament, for example, can, under the terms of the Constitution and common law of this country, be deleted, can be thrown out. Any legislation they come up with can be scrubbed off the statute book by a jury made of the people in a court. The jury represents all the people. That's what happened to King John in 1215. By being brought to book and judged by his peers. That was a jury trial of King John. Only the jury are judges. Certainly not the functionary in the wig and the black cloak, who only later assumed the title of judge. And that was just part of the process of concealing where true sovereign power lies. You can't have somebody employed, paid by the administration, having the ultimate word on whether legislation from that administration is lawful. He works for them. This point cannot be made often enough, and I'll repeat it over and over. The only defence that we the people have, indeed the only defence we the people need against tyranny and dictatorship by self-serving politicians or any other manifestations of an administration, is genuine, and I repeat and underscore genuine, trial by jury. Not the monkeyed around with version of trial by jury that we've got now. Majority verdicts. Juries directed by the judge, as though he knows, or she. It's absolutely, absolutely not the job of any administration, any here today and should be gone tomorrow nest of vipers calling itself government, rather than what it actually is, which is a group of people entrusted only with temporary office and serving the citizens. It's absolutely not their job, far less in their power, to write new law and then simultaneously to empower themselves or their employees to declare that new legislation is lawful. It's not their job either to decide upon and impose via a fundamentally unlawful nonsense, yet another sleight of hand, like a magistrate in a magistrate's court where no jury is involved, the punishments for any supposed breach of that legislation. To accept that state of affairs, functionaries and employees of the administration, magistrates and judges, for example, deciding upon guilt and imposing sentences is to kneel down to tyranny. Magna Carta 1215 was sealed at a time when there was no such thing as Parliament as we know it. It's for that reason that no Parliament conjured into existence after Magna Carta 1215 has the power to alter, far less to replace, that which it enshrines. To attempt to do so is literally ultra vires, out with its power. And they know it. They just pretend otherwise. Or maybe they don't know, because a lot of them are stupid, because they've been misdirected and miseducated like the rest of most of us. The same goes for the numerous rewrites that followed practically from the moment John's seal had solidified. Any reissues could only reiterate the authority of the original. Anything else would be, indeed is, illusion, misdirection and deceit by entities that ultimately fear Magna Carta 1215. A person can instantly understand the power of the Charter by noting the lengths to which usurpers of the sovereignty of the people have gone in their efforts to be free of it. John himself went crying to the Pope, of all people, about having been under duress. You're right, he was under duress. He was supposed to be under duress. He was a violent criminal. The Pope had the unmitigated temerity to claim to have annulled Magna Carta 1215 for wee John, but he was utterly powerless to do so. It was nothing to do with him. Magna Carta 1215 was and remains not legislation, not statute, but the people's eternal compact with a monarch sworn under constitutional oath to serve them and to live and die upholding the people's untouchable freedom. I invite you to contemplate King Charles, what he stands for. Heaven only knows. It's irrelevant, really. He is irrelevant. The point is, the concept was of an eternal compact with a monarch sworn to serve, which we don't have. At this time of nonsense, unlawful nonsense, like the so-called World Health Organization's so-called Pandemic Preparedness Treaty, nonsense like the overturning of Brexit, which is what we're seeing, nonsense like the surrender of the fishing grounds to the foreign entity that is the European Union, indeed all the unlawful taint of decades of unlawful membership of that European Union, which was a blatant setting aside of the Constitution and the common law of Britain. It's not just here but everywhere. It's in the United States of America, it's across Europe. Freedom of every sort is under threat from unlawful would-be tyrants. There's no such thing as democracy anywhere. We've seen that in one election after another, disallowed or interfered with by organised criminals calling themselves politicians and determined to remain in power. Freedom of speech is a last and final obstacle under siege. Thousands of British people are charged every year with crimes amounting to nothing but holding and sharing opinions that challenge the unlawful orthodoxy of the state. It's an almost endless list of punitive legislation pushed by one unlawful administration after another. At this time, as no other time, it matters to remember, and more than that, to understand Magna Carta 1215. Jurists and assorted experts will drone on endlessly about how Magna Carta 1215 has, to cut their long story short, been overtaken by events. They'll tell you legislation passed by one parliament after another down through the centuries has replaced any thinking fossilised in that document. And the Glorious Revolution, so-called, of 1688 and the subsequent Bill of Rights, that's more nonsense. That's a nightmare for the British people, nothing more and nothing less, because it enshrined the lie, the nonsense, the tyrannical nonsense that Parliament is sovereign. It's not. It can't be. The people are sovereign. Only the people. To cut another long story short, any claim that 1215, Magna Carta 1215, has been overtaken is nonsense. When you get right down to it, Magna Carta 1215 enshrines that fundamental and perpetual truth that to accept the lie that Parliament is sovereign, that Parliament has the last say, is to submit to tyranny. I've said it before and I'll keep saying it. We are free people. We are obliged by the universe itself to know it and, which is infinitely more important, to act like it.